Welcome everybody to our egg extravaganza. So today we're going to be taking you through some very simple tips and tricks on making Easter eggs. And again, Claire and I have tried to think of lots of different ideas for you so that at the end of this session, you'll come away with loads of different things that you can do. And we've tried to keep them all very simple. So we're not using spray guns or anything like that. We're just using things that would be quite simple for you to do. And as always, we packed it. So we think we're going to get all of this done in an hour, but bear with us. So what are we using today? So we're using lots of the different Callebaut chocolates. So we've got some eggs made with the W2 white chocolate, some ruby eggs, some lovely pink ruby eggs that you can see here, some gold. And also we're going to be using the power flowers. So I'm going to show you how to make lovely different coloured eggs using the power flowers. So I'm going to start with, I've just seen Claire's done an all face already.
I've forgotten about my pink chocolate. It's okay. It's okay.
So first of all, what I'm going to start with is at the moment, what we're finding is everybody had to suddenly change their plans for this year's Easter because, of course, we got to send everything through the post. So all of a sudden, sending eggs and things like this would be really difficult. So everybody's really reacted quickly. And so what we're finding now is a lot more flat eggs going out in the post, which is a really good idea. So we've got some simple things here that you can do to get the different eggs. So for this one, I've just got the cookie cutters. So I've got a cookie cutter and I've got a transfer sheet. And all you'd need to do on this one is just pipe your chocolate in and then sprinkle inclusions on the back of it. So a very easy way to do the transfer sheets. And this is a lovely spring design, but you can also get Easter egg ones, Easter bunny, all sorts of different decorations. And then also, this is something that we find really useful here. It's actually a mold maker. So it's quite heavy. But as you can see with this here, this little machine, it heats up a piece of plastic. So we have this drop down bit here. It's a bit noisy, sorry. And all we end up doing is we put a piece of plastic in here that you actually get for the machine. Put the plastic in, clip it together, and then bring it up. And then the plastic heats up in this area here. And then you put whatever you want to make a mold of onto here. And then it bleeps. So you have the little timer button here. So you set the timer for how long you want. So about 2 to 3 minutes. And it will get really soft. And you see the plastic start to bellow under here. And then the beeper will go off. And then you push it down like that over the top, and the plastic suctions it. And the reason we haven't done it is because it's very noisy. Because the other thing you do need is a little vacuum cleaner in here so that we get that suction. So again, it's something that's very easy to use at home. So we've had loads of fun making all sorts of different kinds of molds with this. And it's something that you can do bespoke molds with very quickly. So that's the machine. And we get ours from Keylink. So if anybody was looking for where you'd get the machine from, it's Keylink. Just move it down. And so this was one of the molds we made. So if Claire can go to the top. Brilliant. So you can see I've just made, I made some chocolate discs first of all, and then I used them to make my little template here. But again, we've made ones with scissors, we've made ones with spanners, you know, all sorts of different things. So if you were doing Father's Day, things like that, you can quickly make a different mold. So that's another way that you can really make molds easily. So we've made some, and here, these ones were made in the actual cookie mold. So as you can see, they've just gone straight onto the transfer sheet, and they're really nice because that would really fit into an envelope or into a box to send, and you can get all sorts of different types. But these ones, we've made them a bit thicker, and then we've used inclusions on the back. So I've got some crisp pearls, and I've got some marzipan pieces and some chocolate-covered meringues. So again, you can really give your chocolate Easter egg a bit of a bar finish to it. So you know when we make the chocolate bars and we put all the inclusions on the back, the same thing can happen there. So all of a sudden, you can make something that's quite simple, and you can actually send it out to your customers, which is really good. So that's our inclusions. Also, we're finding that this year, everybody's changed a bit we're not just doing eggs as they were. That's not enough anymore. We have to have different layers and different things going inside of them. So we've also seen a lot of people that are starting to add things inside their eggshells. So, you know, when you break open that egg, you actually get a lovely crunchy texture inside as well. So with this one, I've actually used, it's a pistachio pure nut paste with the white chocolate. So we've done 30% pistachio pure nut paste, and we've added it in with our chocolate, and we've tempered it, and then we've used that to line the inside of the shell, and then sprinkled on some apricots and some white chocolate crisp pearls. And again, that's a real surprise inside, so that's really nice. And then this one was using our hazelnut sablage and some of our bresaline. And inside there is another layer of praline as well. So it's the hazelnut praline this time with the milk chocolate, which I'll show you the products in a minute. But again, it's something quite simple to do, but it's adding another dimension, another luxurious finish to your chocolate Easter eggs. And I think if you start to look online at what people are doing, you can see all of this is happening. And also people are layering. So they're doing one layer of dark chocolate, and then they maybe do a layer of white chocolate so that you're getting different flavors in there as well. So lots of interesting things happening this year. So I'm going to show you an inclusion egg. So I've got my Easter egg mold here, and I'm going to actually add in some crisp pearls and some meringue pieces. And I'm just going to show you how we do it to get the inclusion area to actually stick. So if you see these eggs on the front here, if we just do a top down there. So can you see we've got some pink crisp pearls, I've got some white chocolate meringue, and then I've actually got some freeze-dried raspberry pieces in there as well. And then I've got my white chocolate around the edge. And then I've got the ruby chocolate on the back of that. So to do that, we need to make sure that these stick into the mold. Otherwise, if it doesn't stick into the mold, when you tap the molds out, they all fall out, and that's not very good. So what we do is we add in some of our pieces. So I've got some of the lovely Mona Lisa meringue bits here. I'm going to put some of those in. And then some of the crisp pearls. You don't want to actually go too deep with these, because otherwise when you turn them out afterwards, thank you, when you turn it out afterwards, all those extra pieces fall out. So you want it to be quite flat. And again, you could add all sorts of different things into here. Some people add nuts, some people add dried fruits, sweets, you know, all sorts of nice things can go in there. So I just place them in and then give it a little bit of a shake. And then I'm going to pipe white chocolate on the top of that. So I'm just going to go round the edge first to make sure I've caught all the bits in there. And then just do a thin layer over the top. Okay, I'm going to go on to my next one. And again, this could be the same color as your egg is going to be. You don't have to do the two colors like I did. I just like that. And again, on the third one. Now, the trick with this one is that you don't leave it too long before you actually shell your eggs. So I've got my white chocolate in there. I'm just going to tap it. Because what that does is it smooths out the chocolate on there. So you see now I've got a really nice smooth line. But it also gets rid of any bubbles, because you know where the chocolate's actually moving around the edge there. And it actually sinks down a bit to actually stick them. Now, I would need that to set. So I'm going to leave that to set for a minute. And then the next thing I'm going to do is fill it with chocolate. Now, somebody did ask on our last demonstration, on the one with Emily, how do we line our egg molds and how do we fill them? So there's two things we do. So first of all, obviously, these have been cleaned and they've been dried, and we've made sure there's no watermarks, because there's nothing worse than actually turning your lovely Easter egg over and finding a few watermarks on there. So again, it's making sure that we really polish those molds really well. You can use the alcohol in there if you want to make sure that you really clean them and there's nothing in there. But then what we want to do is warm them slightly. So we just give them a warm to make sure that they're room temperature, and then we start filling them with the chocolate. Now, with this one, if I was just doing a plain egg, what I would do is fill it to the top, scrape it off, and then we would leave it to the side for a minute. And what's happening there is I'm just leaving it till it just thickens enough around the edge so that when I turn it over and tap it out, that's it, finished. I don't have to do 2 or 3 layers. Now, if you want to do 2 or 3 layers, what you do is you fill your Easter egg mold with your chocolate, leave it for a second again, give it a good tap to make sure there's no air bubbles, and then turn it over and tap it out. And then we're going to scrape it off, and we would leave it to set. But we only want it to just set. So just as it's hardening, then we can go with our second layer. And again, this second layer doesn't have to be the same color chocolate. It could be a different color chocolate. So then you could layer again. So you get your second layer on there. If you leave that egg to totally set and then do your second layer, what you often find is you get almost a gap in between. And when you take the egg out, they're not totally sealed together. And you often find that, you know, when you break it, it's a bit like shards inside. So it's better to just fill the egg, tap it out, wait till it sets. You know it's not going to take long to set because, you know, tempered chocolate should set within 3 minutes. So you're going to leave it, say, 10 minutes at room temperature, and then you're going to fill it again with your next layer. What we don't want is that first chocolate is still really wet when you fill it, because obviously then you're going to start having problems with it marbling, or when you turn it over and tap it out, you're going to start mixing your chocolates. So I hope that's answered that question, but we will see it as well in a minute. So of course, because we've got the lights on in here, this is taking a little while to set. But I'm going to fill the next layer onto here. But what I don't want to do is, if that hasn't set, when I turn it over and tap it out, obviously all the inclusions are going to fall out as well. So while we're waiting for that one to set, I'm just going to show you our next one, which of course is my favorite, the flicking and splattering. But this time we're going to use some creative powder, some gold creative powder, and we're going to add alcohol to it. And we're going to give it a nice golden texture. So we're having a golden egg. Just check them. No, they're still setting. So on here, or in here, I've got the gold creative powder. And here I've got some, see, I've got gold all over me already. I've got some 80% alcohol. Now you can use something that's not quite 80%. You could use a vodka or a gin, one of the white alcohols, and you do want something that's quite a high percentage. And what I'm going to do is add enough in here just to give me like a solution. But I'm only adding a little bit in, and then I'm giving it a mix round. But that at the moment, you can still see that I've got lumps in there, so that's no good. So a little bit more. Now, when you've made this as well, you do want to use it straight away. If you're not going to use it, put the lid back on straight away, because this alcohol evaporates and you'll end up with nothing in there apart from the gold powder again. And then I've got a piece of sponge somewhere here. So this sponge is just a piece of, you know, like the coral sponge that you can get, the natural sponge, and that's going to give me a really nice design on my egg when I use it. So I'm going to put that to one side for a second. And then in the egg mold, we've done some flicking before. So in here, I've flicked my egg mold. And then what I want to do is some splattering as well. So again, I'm just going to put a piece of paper underneath. And then I'm going to get some of my cocoa butter that's been warmed. So this cocoa butter has been warmed in a bain-marie, and we've got it at 40 degrees. So it's very liquid. And then I've got a piece of paper that I'm going to pour my cocoa butter out onto. So remember, we pour it out onto the cocoa butter because afterwards we're not going to use all of that, and any that's left we can add back into our cocoa butters so we don't waste anything. And then I've got my trusty toothbrush, but it doesn't have to be a toothbrush. It could be It could be a nail brush, it could be anything, obviously, that you're not using for anything like that, just nice and hygienic. And what we're going to do is splatter along, because I want the long lines. So I'm just going to give it some movement on here, first of all. So I'm kind of tempering it, getting plenty in my toothbrush. And then, you see, I'm going to go down so that you start to get the lines coming across. And hopefully not hitting any of these Easter eggs that we've got here already. Now, I'm only going to do half of them because I want to show you the gold straight away in the other half. So I'm going to take my bit of paper and just give that a clean. So turn it over and clean it off. Again, remember, we don't want any of that cocoa butter left on the top, especially if you're filling into white chocolate, because when you scrape the chocolate off afterwards, you would end up with white chocolate turning into pink chocolate, which is never good. So now I'm going to get my alcohol, and I would leave that to set. But this time now, I'm going to dab in my sponge and just get it a little bit soft. And then I'm just going to take off the excess, and then I'm going into my mold. So you see how quickly that starts to colour the mold. And again, this is really nice because the alcohol is going to disappear and it's just going to leave us with the gold effect. And it really gives quite a solid gold effect, which is nice. And with the sponge, we've got that sponge effect. We've got some of the bits showing through it, so you'll be able to see the chocolate coming through it as well.
So Julie, could you just talk us through the way you use the cocoa butter and the sort of so we're talking on here about crystals, and if you take it to 40 degrees, you've not got any crystals, but then you're giving it movement, which creates. Could you just talk us through that process?
Yes, yeah. So when we, if you ever want to see what happens with cocoa butter, what's really interesting to do is get some plain cocoa butter, just melt some cocoa butter and pour it out onto the table. And then what you'll find is if you pour it out onto the table and then you give it movement, and just move the middle bit, you'll find that middle bit, because you've given it movement, will start to set immediately, but the two bits either side that you haven't given the movement to won't. They'll be like untempered. So when we have the cocoa butter and we want to create those crystals, what we need to do is add movement and cool it down. So when we're doing the tabling on the chocolate on the table, when we're tempering, that's what we're doing. We're getting that cocoa butter, we're giving it movement to create the crystals, and we're cooling it down to get it to the right temperature. So on that little piece of paper, the greaseproof paper, that's what I've done. So I've had my cocoa butter that had no crystals in it. I've poured it out onto the cocoa butter and I've given it movement and cooled it down. But because there was so little, it happens really quickly. And also, I don't want it set because I actually want it to be able to flick into the mold. Now, if I had just poured it out and it was really hot and I'd flicked it straight away and I'd ended up with big, thick lumps of cocoa butter in there, they wouldn't have been tempered. And then when I turn it over and tap it out afterwards, I'll end up with the cocoa butter sticking to the mold. That's one of the reasons the cocoa butter might stick to the mold. There's quite a few. So that's why we give it the movement and we cool it down a little bit. Other ways you can do it is if you had that cocoa butter in the bottle and it was solid, you could put it into some boiling water, put the bottom down first of all, then turn it over with the top down because you want the top bit to actually melt. And then the centerpiece is still tempered, and then you give it a really good shake. And that way you're tempering your cocoa butter as well. So it's just the same as tempering your chocolate. You've got to think about what you're doing and how you're creating those crystals. Okay, well, my white chocolate is set. So I'm going to swap. Okay, so I'm going to fill this one with dark chocolate. So I've got my dark chocolate that's been tempered. And can you see, before I go in there, can you see that that's set? So I'm going to go on top and fill it up. Then, like I said, I'm going to leave it for a minute before I empty it. That's the only thing with making eggs. You actually need a lot more chocolate than you're actually going to use, because you need to fill the eggs right up to the top, but then you're going to tap them out. So a lot of the chocolate comes out. So often you have a lot of extra chocolate that you're not necessarily going to use. So I'm going to give it a tap. And then if I had lots all over the place, I would have given it a scrape off as well. But what I'm looking for now is that it starts to set around the edge. But there is a but here as well. If I've got my chocolate and I've done the cocoa butter colouring on there, and I've got the dark chocolate is quite warm. So if we left it in there too long on that cocoa butter colouring, it could actually untemper the cocoa butter colouring, because that's a really thin layer of cocoa butter, isn't it? So you do have to think about which method you're using and why. But we do like this method. So back to my little eggs. I'll move that out of the way for a minute. I'm just going to ask Claire for a bit of a cleaner. Making a mess, Claire, already. Right, so with those eggs, what we've done is we've got some here. So we've got them, and they've got the red flick, and then they've got the gold behind, and they look beautiful. And again, these would be really good for sending out. So they're half eggs, but we filled them. So what we've done here is we filled them, first of all, with the Calabaut caramel. Then we've done a layer of the Calabaut praline. But what we did, again, was a 70% praline and 30% chocolate. So we've mixed the two together to make it really nice and squishy. And then we've ended it with a layer of Cara craquine. So when you bite into these eggs, they've got the lovely oozy caramel, then they've got the praline, and then they've got the Cara craquine. So that's really nice. Thank you. So just give a quick wipe. So these are the little pots. So we've got this lovely kilo pot here, and it's got the hazelnut praline in there. Now we use this for so many different things. So it's great for the pralines, for the center of the chocolates, like I just said, but also it could be used in ice creams, it could be used in buttercreams, in mousses, in sauces, you know, like if you wanted to make a chocolate and hazelnut sauce, you could do that as well. So a really lovely product for using in lots of different ways. And we couldn't use this in the last academy, so now we have it in everything. So if you ask us what our favorite ingredient at the moment is, it's praline. So that's the praline. And again, that went on the outside or the inside of the eggs there, but it also went in the filling. This one was the pistachio layer for this one. So this one is pistachio paste, but it's pure nut pistachio paste. So whereas the praline had sugar in it, this one doesn't have any sugar. So again, it's really good for lots of different things. And look at the color, that's all natural. That's just from the beautiful pistachios we use. But here, because there's no sugar, it's really good for adding into mousses or adding into ice creams, because again, we don't want to add too much sugar into our ice cream recipe, or buttercreams, because it's not actually adding any more sugar in there. So it's just giving you that lovely nut taste. And the other one that we used was this. This is dangerous. So this one is called Cara craquine, and this one is just little biscuit pieces caramelized in milk chocolate. And oh, it smells gorgeous. But it's one of those things that's great for an insert. So it's great for an insert in a truffle, in a chocolate, but it can also be used as inserts in mousses and gâteaux. So if I warm this up and I roll it between two sheets of greaseproof paper and put it in the freezer, then I can cut it out so I can use it as an insert into my cake or my mousse or anything like that. If I wanted to use it for confectionery, again, I just warm it up slightly, and we actually add a bit of untempered milk chocolate in there to make it flow a little bit more. And then we can pipe it into the chocolate first and then add a ganache on the back, and then you get that lovely crunchy texture in your chocolates. And everybody wants to know what it is. Right, now I'm coming back to my eggs. They've not really set that much because, like we say, but can you see they're beginning to set around the edge? I don't know whether you can see there's a little edge. Now, if I wasn't on film and we're doing it within an hour, I would leave it maybe another 5-10 minutes. So I got just a bit thicker edge, and then that way I can just do it the once. I can just turn it out. But I'm going to turn it over and I'm going to tap it out because remember, I've got that insert in the base. Thank you. So here we go. Turn it over. Give it a tap all the way up and down. And then scrape it off. Now, what I want to do with these as well, is I want to turn them over onto a piece of paper and I want to give it a tap because I want to get that edge. I want to get a flat edge so that when I stick them together, I've got something to stick them against. So I'm going to turn it over and give it a tap down. And then the excess chocolate is going to come down and give me that nice lip. So when I need to stick my eggs together later, I've got something to stick onto. But also, Claire, I think if we go on the top down, we'll see, you can see the inclusion. So can you see, we've got the lovely crisp pearls first, then we've got our white chocolate edge that we piped on, and then we've got the dark chocolate, but it's still stuck in there, which is good. But like I say, make sure you don't leave it too long. You think, oh, I'm going to do 50 of these and come back to the first one, because by then that white chocolate will have set and it will have started to contract away from the side. So then when you turn it over and you tap it out, it will actually fall out of the egg. And we don't want that. So I would leave that turned over for a minute or two, just so that that starts to set. And then I'm going to peel it off and scrape it, and I should have that nice flat edge. And then that will make it easier to stick later. So one of the other ones, you will have seen us doing the sponging with the makeup pieces, but I've also got a bit to show you when it goes wrong. So here again, if we get the cocoa butter colours, and we just use the makeup sponges, and we're going to do the same. So we're going to pour the cocoa butter out onto the piece of paper, and then we're going to dab it. And then you can go in and press in there and get the different effects. So this one was with the cocoa butter colours and the sponge, so this circular sponge. And then this one was with the cocoa butter colours and then the square sponge. So you see, it's something really simple. You can buy these really quite cheaply, and you can get all these different effects. So I'm just going to turn it over and get a bit of cocoa butter. I'm only going to show you one colour just so that you can see how it goes. But also what you've got to think about when you do this is what colour do you want to see first? Because whenever we're putting anything into the mould, and again, if anybody can remember Emily's Easter egg tutorial, she was painting into the moulds. So you've got to think about everything backwards. And if you didn't get a chance to see Emily's painted egg tutorial, it's still on there. So if you'd like to click onto the Chocolate Academy page, and then you can sign up to see Emily's YouTube, which was brilliant. Right, so I've got my cocoa butter again. I'm just going to move it around and give it a dab to cool it down. And then I'm just going to go into the mould. And so I'm just going to press into the mould. And you can see I get that square. And then I would need to let that set. And then I can do exactly the same with the next colour. The same with the circle one. So if I do that, get it onto the end and then press in there, you can see you get the circular. So something really easy, but really nice because you can really layer them up and get lots of different texture and creation. The other thing you've got to think of is make sure you go right up to that tip, because often people fill the middle bit, but they don't think about the edges. And when you put those two eggs together, you want there to be a pattern around that middle bit as well. Now, here, look, that didn't work. So the pattern actually stuck in the mould. Now, what can happen here is what I did afterwards was I brushed it with some creative powder. Now, if you overwork your cocoa butters, you will find that they stick into the mold. But I don't think that was actually the problem here. I think the problem was that these eggs are quite thick, and we did that thing that we said to you. So we filled it, and then we left them sat there for a while to thicken. And because the cocoa butters hadn't been in there very long and they were still a bit warm, we think that the chocolate has warmed up the cocoa butter and it's stuck into the mold. So that is one of the problems that happens if you either overwork it or your chocolate warms up your very thin layer of cocoa butter. But then if we're going to stick the eggs together, we need a bit of warmth. So we can use anything to stick them together. So we could use a tray in the oven. We warm the tray in the oven. We could use a spatula, which I'm going to use, my chocolate scraper. We could use the back of a saucepan, you know, if you haven't got anything, thank you. We could use a saucepan, anything metal that's going to be able to warm up. But because I've got my chocolate scraper to hand, I'm going to use that. And I've also got a little bit of cling film here that I'm going to use as a nest. So I just want to take the egg. I've got gloves on as well, so I'm not going to put fingerprints on there, and just warm it, but really slightly warm it, and then place it down onto the egg. And then again, I'm going to take the other half, and you don't want to leave it on there for too long because otherwise you start to change the size of your egg. And again, I don't want all the chocolate dripping down the sides. I want to keep it nice and clean. So then we can just put the second half on and just make sure we've got it in place. And then we get a really nice clean join and they stick together really well. Now, some people would try and pipe chocolate on there and then stick it, it just gets too messy. And if you left both halves different times, what you end up is one is a different size to the other and then they don't stick together. So it's really good if you can heat them, turn one over, stick the other one on top, because now I can leave that there to sit and stick naturally to itself. So I'll move that away. And then we've got another easy one that we can do. So we've got this, if I can bring it down. We've got this one. So this one has got lots of transfer sheet squares all over it. Move that out the way. So can you see we've just done an egg, and then what we've done is we've stuck squares onto it. And again, it was just a simple transfer sheet, but by doing that, it's really made this egg come to life. And also think about your bases. So again, you're going to put your chocolate egg onto a base. And this is a sturdy one so that I can pick it up and move it around. And also I could, put it onto my shop or into a box. Makes it nice and easy for me to move the eggs around. But into there, we've added salted caramel crisp pearls again, because that again is going to give you that lovely texture when you're eating the base. Because again, the base is just as important as the egg. It's got, it's another opportunity for doing something a bit different. And to do the transfer sheet, all I've done for that is I've got some chocolate and I've smoothed it out, a really nice thin layer onto my transfer sheet. And then I've got a ruler, or you can have your pastry wheels and just cut your squares. And then I've turned it over onto a whiteboard and put it into the fridge. And then when we pull it off, we get lots of lovely transfer sheet on there, the patterns on there, but also you get that really lovely high shine. Do you know what I mean? Like they're really super shiny. And again, it's a really quick way of doing different eggs. So you could have all of your eggs made and they could be milk, white and dark. And then you get different transfer sheets and stick them on there. And very easily and very quickly, you come up with a whole range of Easter eggs. And all you've had to do is do some little squares of chocolate and stick them onto your eggs. And so that you can make a really, beautiful display of different Easter eggs, different colors with different transfer sheets. And it would make your shop or your website or whatever come alive really quickly. So that's all of those. So Claire.
Yes, my turn.
I have one thing to show just while you're getting ready. So another one was a really quick and easy one because, you know, like we've been using the cocoa butter colours and we've been using the different things. You don't need to use all of that. You could just use your milk dark and white chocolate. So on this one, we've just got the half Easter eggs and we've just zigzagged over with a little bit of chocolate and then sprinkled on some crisp pearls. And another thing you can do is you can make a nest. So doing the same thing, you can just zigzag some chocolate onto a frozen marble. And then you can make these little nests, which again, you could put on top of cupcakes or you could put on top of a cake, you know, for an Easter cake. Thank you. And so this time I don't have to use tempered chocolate because I'm going to go onto a frozen marble. And what happens here is when that chocolate hits that marble, it's going to be shocked, isn't it? It's going to go, oh my God, what's happening? And so I have a time that I can actually manipulate it. So it's quite good. I'm going to go onto a tray so that I don't mess it up for Claire next. I'm very thoughtful. I just need a scraper. Right, so going to go backwards and forwards. So just doesn't have to be that neat. Like that. And then stop. And then what I need to do is cut off, this as it starts to set, I need to just cut down to take off the end bits. So you can see now it's starting to set. Now this is normally better, you know, the first one you do is very cold, but then your marble starts to warm up a little bit and you have that sweet spot where everything's really easy to do. So you see, I can just take it now and it's very bendy because I've shocked it. And then I can just twist it. Now, once I've done that and twisted it into shape, it's actually not going to like me for a minute. It's going to feel very fragile. And if I touched it with my fingers, it would start to melt. So what you have to do then is make sure that you put this into a fridge and just let it settle, just let it set properly. And then that's it. You can have it out at room temperature and it'll be fine. So then you could do some more zigzags if you wanted, just to fill the middle bit. And then it's quite nice because these little eggs that we've used, you know, we've done the flick and the splatter on there as well. And you can just fill them with little Easter eggs. And it's a really quick and easy way to make a chocolate nest. So that's me. I've done all the quick and easy bits. Claire's going to come on now and wow you. So I'll just clear this up. Just give it a wipe down for you, Claire. Have we got any questions or are we all right?
No, everyone's well happy.
Oh, good.
You've made some beautiful eggs.
Tasty eggs as well. Those caramel ones are really, really nice. Right, okay. Right. So Claire's going to carry on with the easy theme, but she's going to make some that make really beautiful eggs that you wouldn't believe how quick and easy they are to make.
Yes.
Over to you.
Thank you. Okay, so as Julie said, we're going to start off with quick and easy. So here, taking on, Julie did this beautiful transfer sheet egg. Now, what you can also get from IBC are these pre sort of coloured with a transfer inside egg mould, so the complete egg. And then all we do is fill it. So this one I've filled with white chocolate. So you've got like a little chick trying to escape from his egg. Really simple. So you don't have to do any of the decoration. You just fill it, empty it, job done. So you get all these beautiful transfers like this, which are lovely, as I say, quick and simple. And then what happens is, obviously we're all about sustainability and about recycling in our academy. So you're left with the shell. Now, what I've done is here, you can see I've used, so first off I made this one, then I've done this one again. Now, I didn't clean the mould, I just went for it, and you do get some residue left. So if you're going to reuse these as sort of shells, you do need to give them a really good clean first. All I would do is use the 80% alcohol that Julie used earlier, just with a bit of a soft cloth, the 80% alcohol, just give it a good rub, and then hey presto, you will have shiny eggs, and you can reuse these time and time again. Now, what I would say is they are more fragile than a polycarbonate mould, and I will come back to that topic a little bit later. So, next one. This is a whistle-stop tour, everybody.
Sorry, I've messed the cameras up. And you know I'm no good on the cameras.
Okay, so Julie showed you these inclusions, which are beautiful. And she said it's all about the inclusions at the moment. So what I am going to show you is this little chap here. Oh, hello. It's got a bit of paper attached. Okay. So what we've got here is we've actually got some little Easter eggs inside the egg. Okay, and these can be filled. What I've done here is I've, just like Julie did earlier, to do the flick, and then I've brushed some of the creative powder behind. So I've got the silver ones, gold ones, got pink splats, green splats, all really bright spring colours. Okay, and they're in here, just like this inclusion. I'm just going to show you how, because it's a bit scary because they're bigger, but there's nothing to be too scared about. It's all okay.
See, Claire had to go one up on me. I use crisp pearls. She just had to go, you know.
It's cool that when you start looking online, like there are things that you can include in your eggs. Like there's no limit. If you can imagine it, you can do it. Now, there are a few technical things that we have to be aware of here. So where Julie had the crisp pearls in there, obviously they're a lot sort of smaller. So there's not as much room for chocolate to get in and around here. So we do have to think about our organisation, and we want these quite flat. So like Julie said, she went around with the chocolate first. I'm just going to zigzag to get it in place, okay? Because these are very manoeuvrable and they're quite light, because I haven't filled these ones. I'm not going to lie to you. I could tell you that they're full of all incredible things, but they're not. I won't do that to you. So I'm just going to zigzag across, and then this way. Okay, and then we're just going to leave it for a minute. Now, what we don't really want is we don't want lots of chocolate to seep through the holes in between the eggs, because otherwise it's going to end up on the front of the egg. So we're just going to sort of fill around. And what you could do is, if you had more eggs, you could again build up the back. And again, you could use other bits. You could use crisp pearls in there. You could use nuts and all sorts, just sort of just plug any gaps. So like here, I've got quite a big gap between these eggs. Ideally, I'd want to plug that up, because otherwise my chocolate's going to go in there. It's not a bad thing, though. Having too much chocolate is, in my opinion, it's never a bad thing. Okay, so then we're going to go again. And then we're going to leave it like that. So I'm going to leave that to set. Okay, and then just as Julie did, we would then, once it's dry, then we would shell it. So we'd fill it up. Now this, you do have to be really careful, because it's the only bit that's holding these eggs in is around the edge. Okay, so we need to think about whether that's set. So if I was to turn this over now, it would be a disaster. Similarly, if I leave it for a long time and that chocolate contracts, then again, we're going to have another disaster. So what I'm going to show you now is...
Claire, what are the mini eggs filled with? You didn't fill them with anything.
I didn't fill them with anything, no. They were just...
and is it possible to show us how to create them? Could you just talk through?
Yeah.
I've got my stuff there.
Of course.
I think.
Okay. Right. What have I got here? Okay, so in a little chocolate, so you get loads of different Easter egg molds. Like you can buy any size you want. So this is a 4 centimeter egg mold. I think it's really cute. It's a nice size. Okay, so what I've done, what Julie's done on these, and is exactly the same as what I did in my egg, is we get the cocoa butter colours on a bit of paper, move it around, and then splat. Okay, so you get a bigger one, you get this effect here.
The front one sec.
This one. I've got all sizes for you. Okay, so you can go, so this is the sort of splat idea. So literally with the toothbrush, just as Julie showed 10 minutes ago, just splat it, okay? And then what we can do then next to get more colour in the background is to do a sort of flick. And then all we do with the toothbrush is literally just flick the bristles, and it gives you these tiny little sort of blobs. And you can build that colour up, the cleaner, okay? Oh. Got all the props in the background. So with you just literally flick the bristles, and that gives you tiny little droplets of colour. So it's nice to have a big sort of splat in the front and then lots of little flicks in the background, because it gives you that dimension to the sort of colours. And then with this one, like Julie used the gold creative powder with alcohol, and in mine, which I've just used them all up, but you can see in here. So I've brushed behind with the gold creative powder on this one, and then with the silver creative powder on this one. So once the cocoa butter colours are dry, then you can brush behind, and it just creates a different sort of dimension to it all. So I hope that answers your questions. If you've got any more questions on that, Julie and I did a live stream way back when, in December, I think, when we did the baubles and things like that. So it's exactly the same technique. We just applied it to a spherical object rather than an egg-shaped one. So,
and also, I think if you check out Mark's decoration one,
yes,
I think he might have done some into his chocolate molds and things for that one.
Yeah,
and on sheets.
Mark did lots on sheets and things like that. So it's always good to go back and have a look and see what we've done. Now this was an accident. Okay, so I showed you here where I needed to give it time to set. Now I tried to do the same thing with bubble wrap. I was being a bit ambitious. So, but it turned out quite good. So all the things that go wrong are not always bad. So here, I just wanted to show you that it's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to do things wrong, because every now and then something turns out really cool. So I had a strip of bubble wrap, and again, I laid it in the egg. And then just as I did that, I zigzagged across it. But then I didn't leave it long enough for the chocolate to get crystallized enough. So when I turned it upside down, it didn't have the strength, and so the bubble wrap flopped to the bottom.
Did you have it stuck on the edges with sellotape?
Yes, I used a bit of masking tape on the edge. And so it turned out okay in the end. I don't know if I'd be able to replicate it.
Let's do a top down, see what this is.
Do you want to have a little look?
I think it looks amazing, but I think if I ask Claire to make 50, she might have a problem.
Yeah, it's a bespoke one-off. But I think it's quite cool.
It's cool.
It's different. Okay, so to lead on from that, I made another one. And here he is. Okay, tuck you in. Now then, if I turn him steady this way, you can see it's very much, we're talking two halves here. Okay, we're very much a two-part mystery. Now this, for me, I wanted to make this for a while, and I think it's like something from Raiders of the Lost Ark, Indiana Jones kind of thing. So I'm quite pleased. And I'm going to show you how to make it. Now, again, I don't think it's something you could make hundreds of in a day, but it's quite fun and quite different. So if you wanted to have a sort of a showstopper almost in your shop window or for your Instagram, because it's all about Insta, then...
Although I think this one looks like a museum piece. I could see it in the British Museum, Claire.
Yeah, modern art.
Yes.
Bit of modern art.
Very nice.
Okay, so first of all, we need some really amazing tools. We need some paper and a scraper. So again, Julie and I, we don't like to make things using all sorts of specialist equipment, because we want it to be achievable for everybody. So what I've got my Easter egg mold, nice and cleaned by our wonderful Alan, and then I'm just going to scrunch this up. And unscrunch. Okay, And then I have to get some chocolate on there. Yeah. So I'm just gonna, nice bit of chocolate on there. And then I'm just gonna move it around. Okay. Whoops. Sorry about that. Okay. Then I'm just gonna spread it out. Limited my workspace here quite severely by surrounding myself with eggs. Right, so we're just going to spread that out. We don't want it too thin. Now, because we've got lots of crinkles, we want the chocolate to take on the crinkles. We don't want it thin because the crinkles are going to sort of cause it to be a bit more fragile. So we want it quite thick, and I'm just going to let it have a minute on its own before I then put it into the egg mold to take shape. So I would probably leave this for a minute, but we don't have a minute, so we're going to go straight in. Okay. Now, again, don't panic. But we do want to try and make sure, sorry about the crinkly noises, is we have to get this paper off at some stage for it to become an egg. So like here, I've got some folds. If you can
Yeah, sorry.
Down. Right. So like I've got these folds. Now if I let them sort of come in, that's going to be really hard to get the paper off. So I need to try and get it to sort of sit and set in a way that I can get the paper off at the end. So that's not bad. Okay, it looks a bit dodgy at the moment, but don't panic, that's going to set lovely. So in proper Blue Peter style, here is one I made earlier. Okay, so it is quite fragile, but I'm going to show you with a bit of patience. It's okay to take off. Hopefully, this might be a disaster.
Why would you use that rather than tinfoil?
This is just a bit sturdier. Tinfoil can rip and you can leave bits. So whenever you've got like a sharp turn, your tinfoil might be quite hard to get out. Tinfoil would be okay because it's much shinier than this. We've just got this to hand. We don't have a lot of tinfoil. So
yeah, no, I've done it with tinfoil before, and like you said, it just breaks.
Yeah, it's a bit more.
Yeah.
There we go. Ta-da! Okay, now I hear you say it doesn't look very appealing, Claire. You're right. So at the moment, it just looks like something's gone really wrong until we get our bronze creative powder and a big old foundation brush. And then where we've got all these crinkles, we're just going to really lightly brush over. And it just really accentuates the texture. Now you do have to be careful because this does go everywhere. Okay, so all of a sudden comes to life.
It looks great though.
And you can build it up. Sort of the more you brush, the better. You don't need loads and loads of powder. Just give it more of a brush and it just accentuates all the little lines. Okay, so that's one half. So we set that to one side. Pop these away. And here I've got the other side. So because this side is, the back of it is like it's a half, but it's flat. So what I've done here is if I show you that way up. So I've molded my egg and it's hollow. Then what I've done is I've just spread some chocolate out onto a bit of guitar sheets or acetate or even silicone paper again, and then push your egg right down. So you almost need to like burp your egg. So it should release a little air bubble to make sure that it's flat. Now, I'm a little worried about this one because really you should be able to see the edge of your egg because you've sort of pushed it through the chocolate, but on this you can't. So I'm just going to find out and see what happens. So to get it off, all we do is we pull off the paper, the guitar sheet. So it gives you a really nice shiny side. And then I should be able to, yes, just crack this edge off. My chocolate was maybe a little thick. There we go.
Also, it's been on there for a while, hasn't it?
Yeah. There we go. Okay, so what it does is it gives you a beautiful, shiny, and it completely full half egg. So it's a lovely technique on its own. And then all we have to do is, what I would do is I would get a hot plate, melt this, and then maybe just see where he's going to sit. Add a little tempered chocolate, and then you can sit him on there, and you've got a really lovely, really different egg. Maybe a dinosaur kind of fossil piece. So there we go. That is egg number, I don't know what. Now,
somebody said it's a bit like Blue Peter on speed.
Yeah, I'm going for it. I had so many ideas. You want to see the ones that got cut. Man. Right, next one is this one. Now this, I'm very proud of my rainbow egg. So for those of you that don't know, I used to work in the NHS. I have 8 long years. So this is a little tribute to all my friends that are still in the NHS, still working really hard for all of us. So we've made a rainbow egg. Now we've used the power flowers. Okay, the power flowers are amazing. And with the power flowers, we've got, this is all the things that the power flowers will make, okay? So you can make any of these and you get the recipe, and time again, you can make them consistent and reliable. Okay, so if I wanted to make a pink, if I want to make a selection of pinks, it gives me the recipe. So I would use 8 red and 8 white power flowers to make 400 grams of pink chocolate for that one.
So you've actually coloured all those, that's white chocolate that's been coloured?
Yes, it's all white chocolate, and I've just coloured it. So I had some pink chocolate that I was going to show you with, but I left it behind.
That's right, I can go and get it for you.
It's all right, I will explain. So I've started off the egg. Now this is the start of the egg, and I've done it in a bigger one so that it's see-through, so that you can see what I've done. Now, the way that these work is we mix them with white chocolate. So these are concentrated cocoa butter colours. Okay, so it's cocoa butter. So we have to melt it, and then we're going to add it into the chocolate. Now, there's different ways of doing it, and I know that sounds a bit silly, but if you just put one of these, or even 2 or 3, into a bowl and microwave it, you can burn them quite easily. One good way is to use a heat gun over them, but again, you have to be careful not to burn them. I find especially the red ones, they're quite burnable, if that's a word. So I found, and this is a very Clare sort of situation, I found if I put just a little bit of white chocolate into a bowl with a couple of these, put them in the microwave for 20 seconds, the heat of the chocolate helps to melt the power flour. And then you can add in the tempered chocolate afterwards. I would always melt the power flour first and then add it to your chocolate. Otherwise, it's really hard to melt the power flour in the chocolate. Okay.
It's because cocoa butter is harder, isn't it, than the chocolate? Yeah,
and quite often you'll be chasing around little lumps, and then you get streaks of the colour and everything else. Oh, I found my pink chocolate.
Amazing.
Okay. As if by magic. Right, so what I've done is, to start off with, because we want to get that rainbow effect, I've put a bit of white chocolate in, and I've swished it. Then I've gone for the green, and then I've gone for the purple. And so you can see on the inside, we're completely purple. So I'm going to show you exactly what I mean now with my next layer of pink chocolate.
So, but what you need is not to get it too thick there, don't you?
Yes, because otherwise all the weight's going to be at the bottom. And even though we are going to line it, someone still has to potentially eat this. So we have to bear people's teeth in mind. All right, so I'm just going to pour my pink chocolate in.
And have you got this in the right order? Are you sure? The colours in the right order?
No, I don't know. I had to Google pictures of rainbows. And then I decided I was going to make my own rainbow. So, Julie, do you want to go top?
Yes.
And I'm try and swish. Okay, so you can see where my purple line is. I want to go a little bit over and then round. So this is kind of like a balance / patience sort of brain teaser. So then we're going to go this side. And we also want to make sure that we stay to the right kind of curve. Obviously, we can't be too precious, but just going to try and even that up. Okay, so we just swish it across. Right, and then we empty it back out. Okay. So you can see from the top, I've brought my layers up, and you just keep doing that. Okay, just time and time again. You can do it, it doesn't have to be a rainbow. It can be...
I'm just thinking there, you could have 2 colour there, couldn't you? You could do one half.
Yeah.
And then add the other half in from the other side.
Just scrape that off. And then we need to let that set. Now, what I would say is when we let it set, I want to make sure that it's sat so that it drains downwards. I don't want any risk of anything going up this way, so I wouldn't want to put it like that. And if I do have it like that, once I've started to fill up this way again, it can tip this way. So we need to be thoughtful. And again, I've probably got quite a lot of chocolate here, so if I can sort of sit it against some chocolate or something so that it all comes down to the bottom, it's a little bit easier. That's my super fast demonstration of how to make a rainbow egg. I would just keep going. Once you've done your rainbow, fill him up with white chocolate, let it sit for a bit so that you get a nice thick edge, and then empty it out just as you have with the rest of the eggs. Okay. And also what I would say is don't get halfway and then leave it for a couple of hours, because this chocolate is going to be setting and it's going to contract. So if I get to this stage and I leave it and I come back to it tomorrow, for instance, this will have contracted and will probably come out of the shell. So at that point, we're in trouble. Yeah, we're in a lot of trouble. Okay.
We make one of your creations, Claire.
Yeah, just do a whoopsie egg. Okay. What else? Yeah. This is Henry. Henry is a hippo, because nothing says Easter like a hippo. Now, Easter is a time for figures and fun and all sorts of things like that. And I saw Henry in our mould store and I couldn't resist making him. So this was my excuse. Thank you very much, everybody, for letting me make this. Now, Henry comes from these plastic moulds. Okay, so they're a bit more fragile than the polycarbonate mould. And as I said earlier, we need to take great care of these. Okay, these can't go through the dishwasher. That would be even more of a disaster than your rainbow egg if you tried to put them through the dishwasher. I've got too many eggs on the go.
Yeah, sorry.
Have a little manoeuvre. Come on, Henry, budge up. Okay, so here's moulds. Okay, so to clean them, lightly warm soapy water, and then a good dry. You can use an airbrush, just like a spray gun inside to get any water out. And then potentially to polish, you use the alcohol, so the 80% alcohol or even 100% alcohol, and just wipe through. Okay, now to make him, you could potentially fill him up and empty him out, but it's quite a bendy, wobbly mould, so it would be really hard and it would take a lot of chocolate. So what we do, because he's a big mould, we get a paintbrush and some chocolate. And I'm not going to show you the whole thing because it does take a while, but I'm just going to show you. I'm going to show you on his front half because he's got a bit more detail.
So this is what people do as well when they have to do those really big eggs, isn't it?
Yes.
You know, when it's very hard to fill it all up and turn it over and tap it out.
Yeah, so those giant eggs that you get, this is a way to do it. So we don't need to be, you know, we're not creating a work of art with our paintbrush, we're just getting the chocolate in. But we need to be careful about over-tempering or over-crystallizing our chocolate. So each stroke has to be thoughtful, and we're not going to overwork. We're just trying to fill with brush strokes.
Here you go, Claire. Here's a good question. What's your favourite egg?
Or ever?
Yeah.
Ever? Oh, my word. Okay. I've got an answer for you. So Kirsten Tibbles, she did like a planetary egg. So it was kind of like a galaxy, like star system sort of look to it.
Starburst kind of thing, wasn't it?
Yeah, so it was like blue and yellow, like all in the middle, and then black, like a black hole kind of thing. It was that, and it was the first time that because I saw it and I wanted to do it, so I did it, and it took me a couple of attempts, but when I did it, the shine on the cocoa butter from sort of dabbing it in and doing things like that, it was beautiful. I had a great sense of achievement.
It did look good.
And it looked cool. Basically, anything that gets you a wow, I'm quite happy with. So we do this, and we work all the way around. Now, I'm going to show you. So he doesn't look very attractive at the moment, but that's not his fault. Okay, so we would just keep working. Where you can see through and it's sort of orangey, that's where we need to pay attention and build up the layers. And especially like in his nostrils and around his tusks and mouth, we'd want to build that up, make sure there's no air bubbles and things like that.
And also his neck, Claire, isn't it?
Yeah, where his neck joins. You can see there, if I hold it like that, this side, you can see through that. You can see the white of my jacket through there. So there's not chocolate. So if I'm not careful, his head will not be attached to his body. Again, that would not be good. So we need to really paint the neck, just get lots of chocolate on there, and just be aware of it every time. Because
it's his fault point, isn't it? So yes. You can have it really beautiful and then the head falls off.
Yeah, yeah, which would be terrible. Okay, I'm going to pop that back over there. And I've got one last thing. Okay,
I've got one question for you. I know we're going over slightly, but Eve's going to make some gold eggs, and what flavour combinations go well with that chocolate?
Ooh, nice. Coffee goes nice with the gold, so like coffee caramel. Things like apricot and popcorn. Loads of things, really. Sorry about that.
Yeah, we definitely like the apricot and popcorn. That goes really nice.
Really nice.
Yeah.
Okay, this is the last thing, I promise. I think I've got everything. Right, now, because like Julie said earlier, everything's online and we're sort of thinking about how to package and post and things like that. So what we have done is, obviously we've got these sorts of figures, but there's also a trend to make figures with your sort of Easter egg like components. And lots of people have done the face, but I wanted to do the back. So here is my little bunny bum. So these are complete. We were just thinking of something really easy and fun that you could make. That's not too hard. It's nice and simple and quick. So all I've got Easter egg figures, or Easter egg shells even. They're just hollow shells. And all I would do is all I'm going to do is melt these together and push them together to make a head and a body. And I've got two different types of ears here. Now, we've got the Easter eggs, but I think they look quite good on this. But we might want slightly longer ears. I'm not sure. The choice is yours. So I'm just warming up a scraper. And all I'm going to do get these to come together. It's literally just melt down body bit, and then melt down the head, and then we're going to stick those together. Okay, now you could use a bit of tempered chocolate in there. I would suggest that would be a good thing to get a bit of tempered chocolate. But for time purposes, I'm going to try the long ears. Maybe it's a hare rather than a rabbit. I don't know on the technicalities. And you need to think about the angle so that things have got a nice, good adhesive point. There we go. And again, your working area is what people are going to see. So you have to be careful and thoughtful.
Ooh. Claire, could you just explain where you could get the cocoa butter colours from and the moulds?
Yeah, all the moulds and all the cocoa butter colours. If you go to Keylink is a one-stop shop for all your chocolate needs. They've got everything like a chocolate maker. Even if you're just beginning out, they've got everything. You can also go to Vantage House, Home Chocolate Factory, places like that. You can get moulds from there. You can get all the cocoa butter colours from there as well.
And the ingredients, yeah.
Yeah, ingredients and all sorts of bits and pieces.
And the base for your museum egg.
Yes.
What was that?
Oh, so that was what I found in the. I found it in our mould store as well.
I shouldn't let Claire go to the mould store.
I'm not really allowed out much. It's just a chocolate mould, like a sort of pyramid thing. It was
the same material as the hippo, is it?
Yeah, so it's not a polycarbonate one. It was just a flexible plastic one, I suppose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think no. I think it was Pavoni, but it was a couple of years ago.
So there's a company called Pavoni who are Italian, and they do some beautiful Easter egg moulds, but they're all made of the sort of plastic, so they're not as sturdy. They're quite expensive, but they're not as sturdy as the polycarbonate. So I'm not saying don't buy them. I'm just saying be aware
and be careful.
Yeah.
And then how long do I set the moulds, the shells in the fridge for? It's a home fridge at 3 degrees. Is it 10 minutes?
Yeah, right? It's not long. Just putting its little tail on, bring him to life, just with a little bit of chocolate. In the fridge, yeah, maybe 5 minutes, you just until you can start to see that it's contracted, and that's it. Yeah,
I think what you need to do is just see that it's set and it's starting to move, and it would depend on how thick your shell was to how long it's going to take. And I'm just pointing to Claire to talk about Mark's live streams.
Sorry, I didn't get that till. Not very good at taking cues. Okay, so I think we have made everything. So to finish off my little bunny, once he's set, I would just put him on the sheet of paper, just like I did for this egg. Exactly the same technique. And that kind of covers all the eggs we could manage in an hour and 14 minutes. Sorry to keep you going for 14 minutes. Now, on the 9th of April, Mark Tilling is doing a spring cakes live demonstration for you for an hour.
And that's with the new
yeah, so it's a new and exclusive preview of the new Mona Lisa sugar pastes. So they're an amazing new product that's being launched soon. So Mark's going to show you how to use them and what they're all about, and show you just how amazing they are. And then on the 7th of May, he's doing the chocolate flowers demonstration. So again, lots of cool things and lots of like wow stuff, which we like.
Yes, so, and as always, if there's things that you would like to see us do for the live streams that we're doing, let us know. So you can get in touch with the Chocolate Academy on the Instagram page or Facebook or whatever. We have got some ideas of what we're going to do, but yeah, let us know and we'll try and fit them in.
Yes. Thank you ever so much, and thank you for asking lots of questions and posting lots of comments. And like as Julie says, stay in touch with us. We're more than happy to like meet requests and try new things and try and inspire lots of you. So thank you ever so much, and we hope that you go on to make lots of Easter eggs. And if you do try any of the stuff that we've made, just tag us into pictures on Instagram, on Facebook and Twitter and any of the social media outlets.
So yes, have a good Easter, everyone.
Yes.
Bye.